join today. I think up there. Bring up the deck, or I should say, students, maybe you want to introduce yourselves in the chat window and type your name, what you're studying, and what university you're at, so we can get a little chat going. Also, now you can put questions in the chat while we're going on. You can, of course, raise your hands and say them out loud as well. But if you are shy, then just put them in the chat, because what is said out loud appears in the recording, and what goes in the chat does not appear in the recording. So you can ask your questions furtively if you're too shy to ask them out loud. Where is my share? Oh, there it is. I'm peering at the screen like an old woman. Here we go. So our theme for today is careers in tech consulting, and we have with us a couple of MVPs. The MVPs are the best of us. MVP stands for Most Valued Professional, and Microsoft Most Valued Professionals are really the best of us. They are top of their fields. They speak at conferences. They share content that helps other people learn Microsoft technologies. They might have blogs. They might have podcasts. They might be Twitch streaming. They might have YouTube channels. There's a lot of different ways that they share content and teach and enable the community around them. And sometimes MVPs come and join Microsoft after they become super famous, which is a good way to get into Microsoft if you want to. But a lot of them choose to remain outside because they have even more freedom to do the things that they want to achieve in their careers when they are in their own consulting firms. So there's a lot of variety and a lot of choice, but being an MVP means absolutely you are your field. So before I forget, let us do acknowledgement of country. I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to our community. We pay respects to them, their culture, and to the elders past, present, and emerging. As many of us are watching in locations all over Australia and New Zealand, we'd also like to pay respect to the traditional owners of the country on which we all live and work. So, and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. So wherever you are in the country. Now today, I have two very special speakers, although technically at the moment I have only one of them. But Martin will be with us before we start. So Akanksha is part of the Global AI podcast that we talked about in last month's meeting. So you already know part of what she does, but that's only the tip of the iceberg, really. So I'm not going to talk about what they do because they will talk about that in a little bit. I'll just talk through some other things while we're waiting for Martin to join. So the MSA website is currently suffering a few issues. If anyone's been trying to look at it, you might have had some issues because something has happened with the authorization. So they're fixing that this weekend, and hopefully it'll all be fine next week. So if you have friends that you want to share that with and let them join MSA, then it'll totally be fine for next week. We talk about upcoming events, and somebody has taken control. Ooh, what has happened? Give me back my thing. Is it because I'm talking too slowly? I'll try and hurry up. Okay. So we will have a Q&A at the end, but as I say, you can write your questions in the chat if you want to. And we will, if you have your questions in the chat, then that's the place for shy people because they won't show up in the recording. But if you are not shy, then you can absolutely put your hand up and ask questions while our speakers are ongoing. And I'm sure they'll be keen to answer questions from you as we go through. So I do want to remind you all about the changes in accessing exam vouchers. I was giving out the exam vouchers to you all previously when you completed your learning paths. Now you can get them directly if you are in the Microsoft Learn site. There's a student hub there now, which has tried to consolidate all of the information that's useful to students, all the things you can get for free, and you can access free exam vouchers for fundamentals certifications via that website. Now, I don't have any access to it, so I don't know what the experience is like. So if any of you access the vouchers through that, I'd be really keen to hear what that was like and, you know, whether it was okay, whether it was frictionless, whether it was difficult, and what it looked like to you. If you are real on the ball, you could maybe make your own little video about how you access it and how you book your exam and things like that, just like the one that I have made telling you how to book it previously, because yeah, that would be cool, and you could share that with the rest of the group. In fact, we could even show that in a monthly session. So yeah, I'm keen to know that. If you want to do certifications higher than fundamentals level, so you want to do your data scientist associate or your AI engineer, I can help you with those vouchers as long as you have done your fundamentals first. So do your fundamentals first, share about that on your LinkedIn profile, and message me for help getting a higher voucher, and I can help you with those ones. Upcoming events. So we have on October, wait, that's today. So oh wait, do we? I am not sure, because if we had that, then I have definitely missed it. So I don't think we have that this morning, but this afternoon we do have Student Summit. So I don't have the link for that handy, but if you just search Microsoft Student Summit, that will come up and you should be able to join that today. That's for the Asia Pacific region today, so should be good. As with all of these things, if you register for them and don't have time to look at it while it's live, it's still worth registering because you'll be able to access recordings afterwards, and there's a lot of good content linked to Student Summit. So I do recommend looking it up, getting in there and registering. I'll probably try and find you the link and post it in the chat. If you're in Brisbane, I don't suppose I have any Brisbane students in the call, do I? I do have an upcoming event October 18th, which currently no one has registered for, which is so odd compared to all the other sites. And I see that I have someone from Adelaide here who's probably thinking, why do the Brisbane ones get it when they aren't attending and we want it here in Adelaide? Yes, I will definitely get something arranged for Adelaide, but I have not as yet. And I do have something arranged for Brisbane, and no one has registered. But we did one in Melbourne yesterday for RMIT specifically, and that was super. That was good. We had 90 students attend yesterday. So that was cool. As the year goes on, hopefully we'll have more and more of these, and you'll have a chance to get together, meet Microsoft people, meet MVPs, and yeah, connect again, learn what it's like to see people in real life. Okay, and then yeah, November 4th for our next monthly call. Cool. Okay, so I am going to hand over now to our speakers so they can introduce themselves and tell us all about what it is like to work in the world of consulting and to be Microsoft MVPs. Akanksha?
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle. A fabulous start to the whole session, not going to lie. I have at this stage honestly forgotten how to do my own introductions. You would think I'd be better at this, but apparently I just get worse over time. But my name's Akanksha. I am based out here in Melbourne, where it's literally just bucketing down, as Michelle talked about earlier, and as proven by her hair, because she got soaked in the buckets. But yeah, I am a Microsoft MVP for AI, and I work as a managing consultant at Altus Consulting, kind of helping build out some of that AI work there with clients and whatnot. And yeah, I've been in Melbourne for the last couple of years. I think it's now been just over 4 years. And I started as a grad in consulting and moved across different parts of consulting and have kind of stayed within consulting only. So I'm like, this is all I know. But that is not true for Martin, so he can share a little bit more about his different experiences across the way. And for context, Martin is at Telstra Purple, which is actually where I met him, and he's the one who got me into being an MVP and stuff. So I thought it was a really wholesome way of doing this whole thing. It all lined up really well. But Martin, I shall let you do your introduction, which he told me might take 10 minutes. So
thanks, Akanksha. You've actually just stolen half of my introduction there. I was going to talk about how you came through our programming at Telstra Purple, and giving you that bit of support and mentorship of getting you into the MVP program as well. My standard introduction, I have been working with Microsoft data technology since the last century. Ages me well. But yeah, I wasn't always in consulting. I started out as a regular DBA role, cut my teeth there, getting into the depth of the SQL Server product, and then expanding from there. So having the opportunities to branch out, doing a bit more of the analytics, and then really getting deep into the cloud technologies, as that was the next bit that came through there. I've kind of found that whole learning cycle throughout everything has been the important bit for me, and the feedback from that of then reinforcing it through being a presenter, being a teacher as well, and how that's helped others has been one of the most rewarding bits for me. And I've been in the consulting side of things now for about 10 years as well, over a couple of different organizations, of having that wide range of experiences. So there's certainly quite a lot that can happen, a lot of different ways that are different types of consulting companies that you'll see out there, and hopefully we can give you some insights on that today.
Oh, yeah.
perfect. So I think one of the key things, I don't know if you feel the same way, but when I remember when I was in college or university, whatever you like calling it, I went to college in Ireland, which was college and not uni. But it was a thing of like, oh, the career pathways are X, Y, Z. I did a financial maths degree. So it's either becoming an actuary or like doing anything else, essentially, because if you didn't want to be an actuary, that was kind of that. And one of the other main things that kept popping up was consulting, and I never actually understood what that was. And they're like, oh, you're a consultant, what do you do? And they're like, we do everything, and there's not really an explanation, and we consult. And I'm like, that does not help me understand what is consulting. And even within that, then tech consulting can be a little bit different too. So I guess this was kind of a space to actually make sure everyone's on the same page. If you've never heard about consulting, that's no problem. I will try and do a better job than saying we consult. But consulting, essentially, from my perspective, and Martin will jump in and give his side of it as well. To me, it's basically a group of people who have gotten some experience across different aspects and can come in and help with very specific problems that a company might be facing. Consulting can be in 100 million different aspects. You can have management consulting, where it's like, hey, we don't know how we're doing, or we don't know what we're leading, or where should we grow to next. To tech consulting, which can be a very specific problem that they're trying to fix. So for example, for data problems, there might be a lot of data that a company has and they don't know what to do with it. So they might reach out to consultants like myself or Martin, especially Martin, for data problems like that, where he can come in and be like, well, this is how you should store it. This is the best way to structure your data. This is how you can actually access it afterwards, and really build out that whole solution using the best technology that is suited to them, and go from there. Martin, I'll leave you explain a bit more about consulting without saying we consult.
Yeah, look, I've had different experiences in the past, although it was not directly related to the actual deliverables of the business. I worked, before I came to Australia, I worked for a consulting engineering company. So again, they were across the broad range of different types of engineering: civil, mechanical, structural, roads, that sort of thing. So I put consulting in as a company that provides you with specialist services that you perhaps can't do in-house, and giving you that approach and that ability to go somewhere where there is the detailed knowledge, there is the depth and the breadth of experience, which is going to be probably more than an individual company's got. They've got their narrow focus on how their business operates, how their industry segment operates. The consulting side of things is probably going to have a much broader scope, a greater breadth of experience, and something there that can then bring that into your environment, and as a customer, ensure that you get the benefit of that to get the right solution that you need for your individual problem. So it's a way of going, how do I get all this broad range that I don't have, but somebody else has, and bring it in and give me the advantage? So that's where I see the consulting side of things. Tech consulting, yeah, it's just a branch of that. It's just that narrow focus on where you're actually looking. So you're looking into your technology side of things. From our experience with myself and Akanksha, is very much on the data and AI side of things for our breadth of skills. But it's bringing that different perspective, that different range of experience, to give you the benefit as a customer of our skills.
I think that's very, very nicely put, to be honest. And it really is true, like, especially I think for the tech part of consulting, there's businesses whose main bread and butter isn't tech. They just need something built so that they can do the rest of the stuff that they normally do. And which means they don't need to hire these really specialist people into their team and have them do this. So they can just get someone to come in, build a really small part of the solution, and that'll be that. They don't really need anything other than that. So yeah, loads of different aspects to it. And I think this next question, the day in the life thing, I swear I've been asked that from every single person. And I'm like, I'm a consultant. It's really, really hard to answer that question because supposedly every day is different. No day is the same, which is kind of the draw to consulting, what a lot of people call it. So when someone's like, what's a day in the life? And I'm like, it depends, which will be the most classic answer you'll hear from a consultant, because they will never say yes or no for an answer.
It always starts with "it depends." I know one bit I was going to throw out there that you just struck a chord with me there is also, there's, although a lot of consultancies will provide what they call body shopping. So it's basically, I need an extra developer, I need an extra pair of hands at a keyboard to just get through this piece of work. There's kind of two options you get there. One is you could go to a freelancer who just does, this is the type of work I do. I'm a gun for hire sort of thing. Bring me in and I'll contribute to your project. Or they can go to a consulting company who says, yep, I can provide you with a consultant who has those particular skills that you need for your project, and they'll just work under your direction. So there's not any of the side of consultancy of bringing your skills and experience to help direct the company, for example. It's more a case of, you're coming in there and you're just contributing to their project under their direction, just becoming one of the team at that particular client side. So I guess that kind of fits into the bit of, it might not be an every day is different. It might be an every day is the same if you're on a long-term project and delivering a product as part of a customer team. That's one aspect you'll see there. But then you do get into those projects where we don't know what we need. You come and tell us exactly what we need, design it for us, and go ahead and implement it as well. And that's potentially where the fun stuff comes in, the more exciting stuff comes in, because you are there, you are setting the direction, you are bringing all of your skills and experience into setting that direction for the customer.
While you're at it, Martin, do you want to talk a bit about what a day in the life could look like then between the different parts of consulting, I guess?
So I'm going to go from my experience and my perspective, which is probably more at the senior end. And then Akanksha, because she's come through our grad program previously before getting into the role she's in now, I think she'll be able to provide that additional insights as to how it is at the other end as you come in and gain that experience to get up to the senior level. But not every day is writing code for me. You get to that stage where if you're leading a project, there's a lot more about the governance that you have to be aware of. You have to be looking at how the backlog is tracking. Are the team contributing sufficiently to that? Is it moving in the direction that the customer wants? Is it meeting the expectations of delivery with the budget and the timeframes, that sort of thing as well? There is a point where I guess you can go into something which is very much more focused down those lines of working at that higher level, looking after the customers a bit more. It goes round to the start of the life cycle as well, where you will be doing a lot more of the initial scoping. So meeting the customer, teasing out what their problem actually is, coming up with a proposal and an outlined solution as to what you're going to offer for them, what you think is going to be the right thing that's going to meet their needs. In between that, there is absolutely still the contribution to it. It's still getting in there. It's still writing code. It's still deploying things. It's still testing things and making sure what you've proposed as a solution does actually work the way you want it to. You know, is satisfying what the customer needs. Making sure as you go through in incremental stages, is it still what they expected? Is it still meeting the requirements? And if not, where do we have to go? How do you remediate that? How do you set the direction for the rest of the team to ensure that things are going forward from there? So I'd say, you know, I target at the moment that about 80% of my working week is focused some way on delivery. The other 20% can be with new opportunities, putting new proposals together, doing the various governance and project management tasks that are related to it, and having that bit of just making sure the rest of the team's happy and doing things that they want to do and try and smooth out the blockers for them.
I'm glad kind of Martin touched on that rest of the team part, because when you look at a consulting, and this is something you should try and keep in mind, especially if you are looking to start as a consultant, something to look out for in different consultings. A consulting's business, the whole assets of a consulting business are the people. And if they don't particularly look out for their people or support the people in the best ways, that might be a red flag to look out for. Almost everywhere I've gone, like the people care about the other people, like Martin, actually spending time building out different things and mentoring and all the different aspects of it. And then going into the day in the life as kind of almost as a grad. When you're coming in, whether you're a grad or a consultant working on projects, there's kind of two main parts. You're either on the bench or you are on a client side. And when you're on the bench, you're usually developing internal things. You are upskilling your own skills. We all know tech moves at an ungodly speed at this stage. There is a new thing coming out every single day. And I'm sure clients want the newest and best things always. Not always, but they're kind of always looking for the next thing. So it's kind of always important to make sure you know about them. Not that you know everything about everything in tech, but you're keeping up to date with what the new things are coming up. So upskilling is usually a big part of being on the bench, as well as working internal projects. When you're on a client side, what your day-to-day looks like depends on what the client's day-to-day looks like. If you're on a 2-month project, you'll probably have some sprints. You'll probably be doing a daily stand-up. and then actually doing the development work throughout the day, in and out of kind of client meetings, because you are on this random client that you have no idea about and what their business is about. So you're probably talking to a lot of people in the business, trying to figure out exactly how things work and what do these numbers mean, because they will always know that better than you ever will. I can still remember client meetings where I'm like, here's a fully done dashboard, and they're like, that's wrong. And they've looked at it for 10 seconds and I've been working on it for 2 weeks. And I'm like, but are you sure? And they look at it, they're like, that's a completely wrong number. That makes no sense. And I'm like, oh, yep, that's because I averaged instead of summed, or it was some stupid thing where I wouldn't have even known the difference. And they just had a tiny little look and they're like, that's not it. So yeah, it's kind of always important to remember that part of consulting, I think. But kind of moving towards consulting as a grad, I think it's kind of the best way of being in tech, to be honest. You get to be really, really stupid in the best way. Like, you don't know anything and you get to ask all the stupid questions and no one questions them. I still remember the first couple of weeks I started into tech consulting, which was my first job out of college, and I did a maths degree in college, so I didn't have very little technical skills. And someone was like, oh, you know SQL? And I'm like, what are those words? Is that English? Like, is that a specific thing I'm meant to know? Like, I don't know what that means. And this was a person who has worked and lived and breathed SQL, which is a programming language, which is how we talk to databases. This person knows everything there is to know about SQL, and they can do everything with it. And they would still spend 20 minutes out of their day when I would come over and be like, so I'm doing the select star and it's not doing what I wanted to do. What am I doing wrong? Like the really, really basic questions. So tech consulting in that as a grad role, I really appreciated that aspect. I was surrounded by all these people who had all this really wide knowledge and expertise across all these different areas and were willing to give me the time of day to answer all my really, really basic questions to help me get a certain understanding of different aspects of it. I guess it's kind of hard to talk about tech consulting as a grad without any kind of specific questions, I guess. So we might come back to that towards the end. But I guess Martin has dealt with his fair share of grads that he has helped out and mentored with. And maybe, Martin, you have things to share about them.
Well, what I was going to go with there, Akanksha, was, and it probably picks up a little bit on the question that Daniel has posted into the chat, but really as a grad, so, as you've said there, you're not having the deep technical stack knowledge. What aspects do you think it was out of your application that got you through the door?
I was a chatty child. That was 100% it. I can guarantee that. It will not. And I think it's, look, you kind of take time to understand where your key skills are. And I think for me, it was, I can talk and I can kind of talk fairly well to most people and kind of build relationships. And then the other aspect for me was I did a maths degree where there wasn't the biggest amount of support in it. And I don't know how much maths I probably learned in that degree, but I learned how to learn. I learned how to having to figure it out somehow because we had to get the assignment done. We had to get to the next thing. And that was the big thing for me, where I was like, I'm not fussy about what project I get put on or what language it's using, because I don't really know the differences or have a preference. I will just learn. It'll be fine. And that is kind of how my first year ended up looking like, to be honest. I think in the first 6 to 7 months, I'd been on about 4 different projects, and I think I did about 4 different programming languages. And I was like, this is kind of fun. You start hating it after because you don't know any language anymore, and you just have to keep Googling how to translate from one to another, where that is all my Google sees now. It's just, how do I do, I don't know, open a file in Python, because I've just been doing Spark for the last 18 weeks or whatever. But yeah, I think for me, it was
translated that for you.
Essentially, I mean, it's becoming a little bit grim. I don't know if I can code anymore.
So I guess a little bit on that, and our particular experience is both is in that in the sort of data world. So you're not so much experience in the other aspects of tech consulting, but certainly from what Akanksha has mentioned there, maths is something that is quite common coming into a data focused role, because some of the concepts that you'll have learned just work perfectly, particularly for databases. If you've done anything on set theory, during a maths degree, you're there. You know how the database effectively works under the covers. because it's all based on that. It's all based on relations between sets, and you're just trying to get particular intersections of those various sets. So some of that suits very nicely for those types of roles, and it's something that you can push. You know, if you've got that, if you are a maths background and you are looking for a data role, highlight that. You know, put that linkage in between the fact that you've got the theory. All you need is the opportunity to put it into practice, but that it makes sense to you, that you can understand those concepts quite clearly. And you know, for other tech roles, again, probably looking for something similar to that. How can you relate what you've done into aspects that would be relevant for the particular type of tech that you want to get into? And show that you're interested in those things, show that you've got those extra bits. See, Michelle's posted about using LinkedIn. Put stuff in there, put those linkages in there, describe how you've got that linkage from things you've done to things that you think fit in tech, because that shows that you've got the interest. It shows that you've got the desire to keep learning and to make those associations between what you're learning and how it can be used practically. So those things are really, really helpful trying to get your foot in the door.
And I think I think what Michelle's saying about your LinkedIn is probably more important than a resume. I agree, because that's realistically what a person's going to see outside of a recruiter about you. But the other end, and for context, my sister is like 21 and like third year of college, and this is kind of what I'm trying to get into tech. We don't know if that's going to happen yet, but hopefully I will succeed one of these days. But go to meetups, go to calls like these, do as much in networking as you can. And networking can seem like this big dirty word sometimes, where it's like, ugh, what an effort, or ugh, like I don't have to do that. I should be able to do this based on just my skills. And it's true, but no one knows your skills unless there's people around you that can actually quantify those and be like, oh, I understand what that means. And it's really, really important. Calls like this, like you're getting to meet people in the industry, reach out to them after, make the efforts to do the introductions. And I'm not saying they're going to be like really I can't think of the word I'm trying to say here. Responsive, that's what I'm trying to say. They might not be super responsive, but they will have seen your name once or twice. And tech in Australia is extremely small. Like I was at a catch up yesterday where I was meant to catch up with friends. I get there and there's two other people that I'm like, I generically know you from somewhere in tech and meetups and stuff. And it was then a group of 4 people who were having a catch up, which spiraled into another 4 people that turned up. And then we ended up going to another event that I wasn't even meant to be at and met like all these different people. But that's essentially how, I mean, it was just a catch up with friends and it turned into a networking night. But we would start talking and or someone would be like, oh, do you know this person? I'm like, oh, I think I know them because of this person. I've heard the name before. Like, and those kind of things happen a lot. And that can just be, oh, I think I saw someone pop up on my LinkedIn, or Michelle shared something that I will see on my LinkedIn. I'm like, I remember someone doing something around that general thing. So it goes a really, really long way to do things like that, which they take time. They're not easy to do. Making videos and doing all these things and doing the promotion on networks and social networks is not easy or straightforward. It's very time consuming, but it kind of goes to that is what I valued and made an effort to do in uni for me. And that's because, again, it goes back to I wanted to try all these different things and I wanted to see what fit best for me. And then it turns out I'm like, okay, I can learn things, I can talk to people. So I'm going to try and focus on those things and see how I can market that.
So the other bit, and it fits around that, and I guess part of my backstory as well, was making that first step at a meetup or user group to put something together and actually do a presentation. Now, it's not as scary as you might think. The common one, and certainly the one that was there for me, was I have to present something which is really deep, technical level, or really innovative, or just something nobody else has ever thought of. And it doesn't. Because what you've done, anything that you have done, it might just be you've done it a slightly different way. Here's a different perspective on solving the problem. Here's my way of doing it. And what you find, hopefully there's most of the meetups and user groups are flexible enough that you don't have to go in and say, hey, I've got this, full 1 hour presentation I want to give. hopefully they'll give you the opportunity of doing smaller size chunks. So looking at a 10-15 minute presentation, so you can be very narrow focused on one particular topic and talk to it well, because it shows your passion, it shows what you've been doing, it shows your interest. And taking that in as a networking opportunity is kind of what got me to where I am today, because I did that once and I hated speaking in front of people. I absolutely detested it. For most of my life, I did anything I could to avoid it, so that by the time I was in my late 20s, I had the grand total of 2 times that I'd ever had to speak in front of people. And I found it terrifying. I hated it. But that one extra step of having the encouragement from somebody to do it and going, oh, that was all right, actually. It then opened doors for me. It got me a hook in. At that point in time, I was going back to the UK for a couple of years, and it gave me a hook into, again, a networking opportunity with a group of people over there. What that led to was my first job back there, because it was, again, based on, hey, here's a recommendation. Martin can do this talk for you. Okay, great, we'll have him in. And it was like, okay, you did all right in the talk. Yeah, I've got an opportunity for somebody to join my team for this job. Are you interested? You're in on my say so. Not even having to interview and things, because you've built that network, you've built those relationships with people, and they become the most important aspect of that. But also, they're absolutely great fun, because what I've now got is a network all around the world of people that initially started off as just work or tech related colleagues that have become good friends. That it gives you those great opportunities as you go around traveling anywhere. And if you get to that stage of, hey, I want to go traveling somewhere, oh, there's a meetup happening, can I speak at it? There's a tax deduction for you as well. So some nice little side benefits from that. But take that networking as far as you possibly can, and doing something rather than just attending and speaking to people. Putting your hand up to do something is that extra way of just getting that extra visibility, picking your name out for the people who might be there and looking. And if you've done something, if you've been up there doing the talk in front of the group, your name's going to stick more than somebody you just meet and talk to in the audience. So you've that extra benefit there of looking at that as an opportunity to really get ingrained in some good networks, and don't be afraid to let people know that you're looking. Find the people that are in the companies that you want to work for and speak to them, network with them, tout your credentials to them, so that when there is an opportunity going, that's the first thing they think of is, hey, I've got a position. I know somebody who'd be keen for this. The other benefit for them is, most employers will give referral bonuses. If I bring somebody in, if I say, oh yeah, I was speaking to so-and-so, they'd be a good candidate to come in and work for us, hey, I'm going to get financially rewarded as well. So it's in my best interests to look out and expand my network, particularly across all levels, not just talking to other senior people, but talking to the grads coming through and finding out, who is going to be good fits for the opportunities that we have. I'll happily take that with a little bit of extra cash in my pocket every day as well.
And about the speaking things, part of consulting is talking to a lot of people and getting chucked into a lot of meetings that you might not be prepped for, not always prepped for at least, and kind of getting over that fear of speaking to unknowns is really, really helpful. Quite similar to Martin. Martin was the one that forced me into my first presentation, which was at his meetup, and spiraled into my first conference presentation, which Michelle was there for. Wow, this really is like a full circle for me today. But
you're just showing the benefits of the networking.
It really works. And now I'm back here doing this. But I still remember my voice would always shake for the first little bit, and the way I got around it was like I would do an introduction bit, and I had this photo of myself, which was like looking the most Irish I can look. I had this like big bright green poncho on me and stuff, but it was a bit of a laugh. It gave me a break, and it like let me kind of settle into the thing. And what I found interesting, my voice will still shake sometimes when I'm presenting, but the more I've done it, like over the last year, I've started noticing I've gotten more relaxed, even in client presentations or client calls now, where I'm like, my voice doesn't shake. I'm like, I kind of know what I'm talking about these days. Like, I'm all right with this now. And that wasn't necessarily, oh, I've gotten a bit better at the work I'm doing, but it's just kind of getting that exposure into, I am so used to having to present and have my voice shake that I am very acclimatized to it now. So all these things kind of interconnect and will help you out with 100 different parts of your life and career going down the line. You've got so much to be doing and things that'll come up, but they'll all work themselves out, I swear. And the referral thing, everyone, most people in tech will have kind of a referral system in place. Just one tip, don't go to someone and like you've said hello to them once, but then don't message them being like, can you please refer me in? It kind of sets off a bad taste. Like build a relationship, build a network, they will do it themselves. You won't need to ask for a referral into a company. They will be the ones kind of doing it for you. Make the effort to build a connection and network and that relationship before kind of just jumping straight into this is what I want from you. It sets off a better network, I think.
Yeah, show off what your skills and abilities are to them, and that's the bit that they will then go, that's the right person that I want to pull in. And like it might be, I've had other scenarios where it's been based on that personal relationship. So it's been, do you fit in? Because I can see from LinkedIn or your resume or whatever it is, yeah, you've got the technical capability to do this, but do you fit into my team? And I've had a couple of roles that have been very much based on that, of the discussion did not involve any technical questions, any sort of technical interview type thing. It was just a, let's talk and let's see if we actually get on and you're going to be the right personality, the right fit for my organization and my team. So hitting that up, building those relationships, making sure that you get on with people that way in the places you might want to work. For the other fact that it's just going to be a much nicer place to work if you get on with your colleagues.
That, and when you're reaching out for people, just remember the fact everyone likes talking about themselves. Like it's an easy thing for them to do. So if you're literally like messaging someone to build it out, we'd be like, hey, I'd love to know what your experiences are like in this. Most people would be like, yeah, I'd be happy to have a cup of coffee and talk about myself for 20 minutes. Most people are like that. Remember that fact. Exploit it a bit. I can see a question from Aidan kind of around the lacking the business knowledge and domain, especially in consulting. That's kind of a given. Usually most projects will have a discovery piece of work built into it at the start, which essentially will be those meetings with those specific SMEs that know everything. So SMEs, it's when do they will be usually clients are for their own business. They will always know more. And if you're kind of going into a project halfway, period is already there, your internal team will give you that context because they will have been through that discovery process. And if that's not the case and you're really struggling, don't be afraid to set up a call being like, hey, I'd love to just know more how this question here works or how this system here works. Can you give me a block of time in with the client? And they're really able to do that kind of stuff usually.
Yeah, it's a kind of, the important thing is to make sure that you're comfortable asking for help from the rest of the team in the organisation. And if you're going in as a graduate, you're likely one with responsibility for determining that and working that and setting the direction. It will be the person on the project from your side who will have that responsibility. They're the ones that you then you hit up and say, I don't understand the process of doing what we're trying to achieve here. What is the the business case or the business scenario that we're modeling, for example. They'll be able to give you that and say, here's what what we're trying to get, here's what we want you to achieve, and be able to set it that way. So certainly as you come in at that graduate level, ask about everything, clarify everything. Get somebody to to sit with you if needs be and say, I'm going to do it this way. Do you think this is right? Because all of that reinforces things. It identifies you as somebody who is keen to learn, keen to do something right, and keen to ensure that what they deliver is the right thing for the customer.
I'm just going back through the questions to see if we've missed any. What would be the ideal stack? I'm assuming tech stack for a tech consultant role.
It
Honestly,
depends.
you jumped ahead of it. I love it. It does depend on the role you're going for, but also if you're going in as a grad, there doesn't need to be necessarily too much. It's just at least you know the different bits and pieces that are related to the role you're applying to, and know how you can get more understanding of them, and where you might find that.
There's a bit on the consultant company that you're going in for as well. Some of them will have very structured graduate programs that will give you a taste across the various different areas. So whether you want to try a bit of networking, a bit of security, a bit of data, a bit of app development, that sort of thing, you might get moved around across that in a very structured program. And those ones are going to be good because it will allow you to find where your fit is. It will allow you to go, this is where I really feel comfortable. This is the bit that interests me. This is the bit that I just pick up and competent at straight from the off. And also the bits that you don't like, equally as important. Don't get railed into something that is the wrong fit for you. Find your niche, find the right thing that just feels comfortable, and work on it from that. So great if there's a structured program. If there's not, if you're actually going for a particular role, then obviously your stack and your knowledge needs to fit into that particular role that you're going for. So for example, if you were looking for a role as a data engineering consultant, you'd want to have some of those background skills with how to do pipelines, how to build ingestion flows, all that sort of stuff. Based on that, your skills with security might not be quite so relevant into that space. So tailor it that way. So find what works for you, and it'll come to you in different ways. Mine fell into it by accident. I just got to playing with a database one day and went, oh yeah, this is easy. This is obvious to me, how this all works and how it bolts together. And that just took me from there.
I think that's all the questions in the chat that I can see at the moment. If you've any other ones, feel free to jump in and talk about them. I know Michelle's shared a few of the different meetups. Meetups can be scary if you're going on your own for the first time. Grab a friend, like drag someone with you. I'm sure there'll be someone, like even if it's like someone not related to tech at all, and you're like, can you just turn up for one event with me? And you'll meet enough people that you'll be okay going again the next time. Or find people in your year, like you are all in unis. Everyone else should be also going to meetups, and just get a little group together and like, we're going to go to the city on Thursday evening and we're going to get some free food and drinks and maybe meet some people. And maybe if we don't, we got some free food out of it, and that's it. Like,
and what student doesn't like free food and drinks?
I mean, I still love my free food and drinks. It was great last night when I got free food and drinks. But it does add up.
Introduce themselves to the hosts of the meetup. That can be their sort of challenge, right? If they think they're going to do one thing there that scares them, maybe go up, introduce themselves to the hosts, and then at least those hosts might introduce them to some other people within the meetup that would be good for them to know.
Yeah, and for sure. And if you go and tell them like, hey, this is like the first time I've ever been to a meetup, they will go out of their way to make sure you're okay and make sure you're comfortable. Like I run meetups and I'm like, every time someone comes in and they're like, this is my first meetup, and I'm like the biggest cheerleader on the side of like, you made it, like you turned it up, you have achieved. That is the biggest part of it. But there is a really wholesome community out there looking to make sure you are comfortable and you belong in the community. Make the most of the people that are out there doing that.
I like the idea of the host, because if where people are doing that, and that's the sort of the way that you come in and introduce yourself. The thing is, the previous person who was talking to the host might be in exactly the same scenario as you, and there's an easy one for the host just to go, hey, meet so and so. It's their first time as well. There you go. There's your in. So you've got something there of being, immediately a bit more comfortable, somebody to talk to. And then if the host is doing well and knows that you're all first timers, they should be then bringing you into somebody else's there as a regular to say, meet so and so. And then that's your progress from there. It makes it easy from that point.
The other thing I was thinking about, that's kind of where you were both talking about speaking at meetups and conferences as a way to sort of, share what you know with your community and build up your connection to that community. I was thinking for the students, there's probably another step before that they can do, which will help them build that confidence up, which is when you are learning something. So maybe you're following a tutorial on Microsoft Learn and you're, building something for the first time. If you record yourself doing that and you talk through what you are doing as you follow the tutorial, you could share that on YouTube with other students so that when they do the same tutorial, they've got, they can sort of follow along as you're following along. And it's more fun for them, I guess, if they see you making mistakes and you figuring out what was wrong with it, and then that helps them to do the thing too. And that's a really good way to sort of start thinking about teaching other people around you whilst you are still learning.
And also a great way of reinforcing the learning. If you're actually then talking about it for somebody else's benefit, then you're already reinforcing your understanding and projecting that across to others. So again, that's just another way of deep rooting that into your own knowledge.
Yeah, I think when I was, well, not even before, still now, I often find myself embarrassed to ask technical questions, thinking I must be the stupidest person in the room and I don't know this stuff. But when I'm doing it like that to teach someone else, those questions come out and I don't feel as embarrassed about them because I know I'm saying them out loud to help other people. And so, yeah, it's a really good way that helps me learn, as you say, Martin, but I'm telling myself that I'm doing it to help other people, but really it's helping me too.
I think this might be a slightly bizarre metaphor, but I over the last year decided to start sewing and learning how to sew because I'm like, I need a life outside of looking at my computer. But it's interesting because yes, there's patterns that basically cut this piece out and then do this and then do this. Like they literally have it all written out, exactly what I need to do it. And yet I find it nearly impossible to follow those. But if I find the same pattern that someone else has done it on YouTube, I'm like, if I see a YouTuber, I'm like, I'll do it. I can figure it out. I know I can because I can see it being pulled into different things. I don't know, the patterns all have these specific technical terms in them of make sure you do this kind of a stitch or make sure you double Dutch fold this in this contraption. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. But it's the same concept for people following the Microsoft Docs or Microsoft Learn. If you don't know the specific terms, the person writing it is probably someone who's built that project or the product or whatever it is. They've been so ingrained in it that it's really, really easy to forget to simplify out the language sometimes. I've gone into the doc sometimes and I'm like, I don't know what this is saying. What is going on? But if you have done that and you've struggled for an extra hour trying to figure out what they've said, you can save that hour for someone else by just talking it through of how you understood it and save them having to find about 20 other blog posts. Been there, done that. Makes someone else's life, including mine, easier by retranslating some of those blogs. It's great.
And that is essentially, really putting them on the right track to become future MVPs as well if they start doing that thing early. Cool. Does anyone have any final questions? Because I see we are a minute to the hour. Well then, thank you all for joining, and thank you Akanksha and Martin for giving us a really interesting session today.
Well, I hope it was useful.
Oh, it was wonderful. And I'm going to put this on the YouTube later so you can all watch it again and again and again.
I hope we did a better job than Consultants Consult. That was my only aim with this. It's if we can do better than that, I think we've achieved.
Yeah, I think you are definitely very clear, and all the jokes that go around about consultants clearly are not true when it comes to you two.
That depends.
Apart from that. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks everyone. Have a good weekend, and I will see you all online or in the next meeting or in the next technical workshop. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.